I have an online boyfriend who pampers me with his attention and obedience. The only drawback is that he never videos me and doesn't answer my calls at night. My girlfriend said that the other person is likely to be married and told me to be careful not to be cheated. In order to find this out, I deliberately called him in the middle of the night. The next second, a familiar buzzing sound came from under the bed. The buzzing quickly faded. What followed was the beep of the call being hung up. "Hello. The call you have dialed is in progress." My whole body froze and I subconsciously looked under the bed. The sound, it seemed to be coming from below. At first I thought I had misheard it. So I boldly called back again. Soon the vibration sounded again. Bold assumptions appeared in my mind. Someone under the bed? I had read similar news stories before about women living alone who had their avid suitors sleeping under their beds. Whenever night falls, the man crawls out to share the girl's bed. Thinking about the serial secret murder cases that happened in the city in the past year, I could almost confirm that the one lying under my bed should be a perverted murderer. I took a deep breath and forced myself to calm down. A minute had passed since I made the call, and there was no response from the other party. Obviously he didn't know that I had found him. I didn't have any chance of winning a physical fight. Calling the police would easily scare the snakes. So at this moment, my only way to survive is to leave this place. After realizing this, I deliberately called my best friend's phone. Putting the phone on the bed with the amplification on, pretended to spit out nothing. "You got me. He might really have a family." I just called him, and he hung up. Right. I just thought he wasn't simple, normal mem. I tiptoed out of bed, the sound of talking perfectly masking the sound of my walk. My best friend's tirade continued. At the moment, my heart was beating like a drum. Good thing I left the door to my room open due to the heat. I made it to the living room without a hitch and started running outside without looking back. The whole thing was shaking as I opened the entry door. The moment the door was closed, I clearly saw a man get out from under the bed. This was a new neighborhood that had just been delivered, and hardly anyone lived there. Even if I called out for help, no one would necessarily hear me. I turned my head and started to press the elevator furiously. While pressing the elevator, I was chanting in my heart to hurry up. The elevator didn't know what was going on. The number kept stopping at 1 without any change. The sound of footsteps behind me became clearer and clearer. Just when I was extremely nervous and about to cry out, the door creaked. I rushed up without saying a word, slamming my neighbor heavily back into the house, closing the door and unlocking it in one fell swoop. "Are you all right?" The other man spoke cautiously. I sat on the floor breathing heavily. Looking up, a familiar face came into view. Cohen? My immediate supervisor. We didn't know each other well in the company, but seeing him right now was like seeing a relative. I grabbed his hands in a death grip and spoke in fear. "There's a murderer in my house. Call the police for me, please." He was frightened by my appearance and patted my back to calm me down. "Speak slowly. Don't rush." I broke off and retold what had just happened. Cohen's expression froze and became unnatural. "The online dating partner is a murderer? This can't be right. Why don't I go in first and take a look for you? In case it's your illusion. It's not good to report it to the police and be educated. I know the whole internet dating thing is hard enough to accept. Not to mention the unthinkable thing that the object of online love lies under your own bed. If I hadn't experienced it myself, I would have thought it was the plot of some novel. So it was normal for him to have such a reaction. I didn't bother to explain to him, and grabbed my cell phone and started calling the police. After finishing the matter clearly and rationally with the police, I calmed down quite a bit and pressed my ear against the door to listen to the sound. It was quiet outside. Could the man have already left? I got up and looked through the cat's eye. It was pitch black outside. Suddenly, knock, knock, knock. There was a knock on the door, and all the sound-activated lights in the hallway came on. A cloudy eyeball appeared in my line of sight. I hurriedly covered my mouth to keep myself from shouting. It wasn't until the corridor fell into darkness again. Only then did the man's footsteps sound again. slowly walking towards the elevator. After confirming that he had left, I collapsed to the floor and heaved a sigh of relief. My house had a fingerprint lock, and the combination was known only to me. After moving here, I've never called for door-to-door service, and I've even had my little brother leave takeout downstairs. How did that man get in, and how long has he been living in there? Just thinking about it makes my head spin. Are you okay? I realized that Cohen was topless at the moment. The room was also a mess, like it had just been through some kind of war. He rubbed his nose and explained. Just moved in. Haven't had time to clean up yet. Why don't you sit down? I'll go to the bedroom and change. The moment he turned to leave, I hurriedly EK'd out, pointing to his cell phone. He opened his mouth. Can I make another call? Otia and I are in the same company. We all know each other. He was a little difficult. Hesitated for half a day, or handed me the cell phone. The moment the phone was connected, my tears instantly poured down. Where are you? With whose phone? Safe? It's Cohen's. I didn't expect him to live across the street from me. Thanks to him. I don't know why. When saying this, Cohen's expression was tense. He stood in the light, his fists clenched as if he was about to rush up and knock me over the next second. Otia's soothing voice continues. I hastily opened my mouth to interrupt. That's it for now. I'll call you back when the police arrive. Okay. Then you be safe. I walked up and handed the cell phone into Cohen's hand. Sorry. It took a bit too long. As we spoke, the phone made a buzzing vibration. The screen lit up. It was a text message. I subconsciously looked down to see it. With a shake of the hand, the phone fell to the ground. Cohen bent down to pick it up and gradually approached me. What did you see? Scared like this? I took a few steps back in fear and forced a smile. I was scared by that murderer just now. And my hands are still shaking. Go get dressed. Don't freeze. He gave me a thoughtful look. Picking up the jacket on the couch, he casually wrapped it around his body. The bloodstains on it were exposed to me with a big grin. It was then that I smelled the heavy odor of blood in the air. I distinctly remembered that the last person to enter this home was a female. And the furnishings in this home, the pink couch cushions, the white carpet, cosmetics scattered everywhere, and high heels on the shoe rack by the door. This is clearly the home of a woman who lives alone. Why was Cohen here? What the hell is going on in here? Just now my cat accidentally hit a knife and died. Don't be afraid, said he. Pulled out a dead cat from under the sofa. I was so scared that my pupils shrunk. But the cat has long been air-dried. And there is no trace of blood on the body. Cohen is lying. Cohen was lying. And his appearance was too coincidental. It was as if he was deliberately waiting for me to ask for help. Could it be that he's in cahoots with that guy? Thinking about this, I opened my mouth. That guy should have left. Why don't I go home and wait? Cohen grabbed me. How can you be sure that the murderer is gone? Or I'll be safer here. I pretended to be convinced by him, and grumpy ly paralyzed on the sofa. Rather. Then could you please get me a glass of water? He himmed, then started scrambling for a glass. It's the first day we moved in. The house is too messy. So wait for me to boil some water. I nodded my head nicely. There's no rush. After that he started the kitchen moving around. I carefully copied the vase on the table, and approached him. 1 step. 2 steps. Suddenly, he stopped. The moment my eyes met, my heart stopped. Without hesitation, I smashed the vase on his head, and blood flowed instantly. He tried to reach out and grab me. I raised my foot and rushed to kick him hard between his legs. Taking advantage of the gap when he crouched down in pain, I pulled out my legs and started to run. Tanya, let me explain. You can't go back. There are psychopathic murderers in that house. The sound of agonizing wails came from behind me. I had only one thought in my head, and that was to run. When I got home and unlocked the door, I just felt alive. In fact, Before I hung up the phone with Otia just now, I vaguely sensed that something was wrong. Because she said 4,221. I remember Cohen's cell phone number is not the last four digits of this all. Then I saved up 4,221. Of course. It's not Cohen's cell phone number, but my online dating partner's. And the text message just now. Although I didn't read it all, I vaguely saw the words "you're smart. Throw yourself into the net." I guessed Cohen was in cahoots with the guy under my bed. That's why when I ran out of my house, that person was not slow to follow me. He wasn't trying to catch me, but trying to scare me. Let me hide myself into the opposite door. To verify the guess, I rushed back to my bedroom to call Otia. Just under that cell phone number reported to me. Huh? She was puzzled but read it back to me. Sure enough, it was the same number. A wave of annoyance ran through me at the thought that there were probably two murderers hiding outside my door. Hurriedly, I called the police again. But the other party said that there had been a huge car accident on the way here, with heavy casualties, and that they were trying to get here by all means, and told me not to go out no matter what. It was a new neighborhood, with imperfect property and security guards who were all old and infirm, and I didn't dare risk them at all. Cohen is still outside knocking heavily on my door. It sounded like he was using a tool to smash the lock. The door was shaking as he smashed it. I held the knife in my hand with a death grip, silently thinking that as long as he couldn't get in, I was safe. Tanya, it's not what you think. Listen to my explanation. In that case, you can talk to the police when they arrive. He was silent for a few seconds. Okay. I will definitely prove my innocence. Outside gradually quieted down. My taut heart finally got a hint of relaxation. Suddenly, there was a terrified scream from outside, followed by the sound of fists landing on flesh. Two people? Could the police have arrived? I boldly leaned over the cat's eye to look outside, only to see Cohen angling with a man in black. The man was stronger. Cohen was repeatedly at a disadvantage, and was pinned to the ground unable to fight back. Who is this man? A cop? No way. The police couldn't have come here alone. They were fighting like hell. I wasn't sure which of the two of them was the good guy, so I had no intention of trying to go out and help. The black-clothed beater cursed as he punched Cohen. What did you do to my wife? What did you do to her? You scum. I reacted instantly that the man was the husband of the woman across the street. Gradually Cohen began to gain the upper hand. He broke free from the man's confinement and counterpunched the other man a few times. Just as I was torn between going out to help or not, Cohen kicked the man a good distance away and turned his head to run in my direction. I wondered what he was going to do. Next second, a familiar voice rings out. Unlocked successfully. Welcome home. The door was pushed open with such force that I fell heavily to the floor. DONT. I screamed out. But it was already too late. Cohen slammed the door heavily in the man's incredulous eyes, sitting paralyzed on the floor breathing heavily. I winced, hurriedly picking up the knife that fell on the floor. He took a step backward. Cohen's combat power just now I have already learned. Physical combat. Not to mention the chances of winning. I may not even be able to carry two moves. If I hide, I can't help but laugh bitterly. Just this huge house. Where can I hide? Even if I got lucky and ran into the bedroom. But would Cohen really not destroy the bedroom door? Instead of pissing him off and slashing me to death, might as well find a way to calm him down first. I swallowed nervously and opened my mouth boldly. What did you just mean by misunderstanding? He was drawn to my voice. Looking up, I met his red bloodshot eyes. The warm yellow light hit his face. He was bruised and swollen, a far cry from his usual unsmiling superior. Are you willing to listen to my explanation? When he finished, he got up and slowly approached me. I prayed humbly, but the knife in my hand was slow to drop. Can you finish first before coming over? He raised his hands high in the air and slowed down his tone. Okay. I won't come over. Don't be afraid. You may not believe me when I say it. But I promise that everything I say is true. I smiled. I believe it because you didn't hurt me from start to finish. You must have a hard time, right? He nodded vigorously. Tanya, it's so out of place to say this right now. But I like you. I've liked you from the first moment I saw you. He said seriously and sincerely. He said, I thought I would be the first to catch me. But before I could do so, I inadvertently learned from Otia's mouth that I was in love. And it was an online relationship. The other party is very good to me. Often give me flowers. Ordered takeout. From time to time to send a small gift. He had thought to give up as long as I was happy. But a few days ago, he heard me and Otia in the coffee room spit. Said online boyfriend does not video with me. Do not pick up my phone. So he became suspicious. Initially, he thought the same as Otia, that the other party is a married man. So he left a heart to start investigating. He first got the other side to meet, order takeout cell phone number. Ready to ask each other out to talk. But no matter how to call, the other party did not answer. So he found someone to go to the communications company to check the owner's information. But did not expect this check to scare themselves. Do you know who the owner is? He opened his mouth coldly and blindsided me. I shook my head. It was you in person. I was petrified in place. How could it be? What do you mean? Are you trying to say it's me being schizophrenic and falling in love with myself? Cohen sighed. Seriously. I had suspected it too. But I found out that it wasn't the case. It was that person who used your ID to get a cell phone card. Cohen even took a few days off work to squat in order to find out about that person. Finally he found out that that person lives across the street from me. It's that couple. Although I don't know what their purpose is. It's definitely not innocent. That's why he managed to get into the other's home. I'll admit. What Cohen said blew me away, and sounded reasonable. But it's still full of holes when you think about it. First of all, the cell phone with which I had an online relationship was in his possession. And secondly, how could it be so coincidental? It happened to be tonight. I also found out about my online boyfriend and he just happened to show up across the street. But right now, I had no choice but to believe him. I feigned shock and covered my mouth. So that's how it is. If it wasn't for you, I can't imagine what would have happened tonight. He stepped forward. Can you trust me now? Of course. Thanks anyway. Now we just have to be patient and wait for the police to arrive. Cohen chuckled. A flash of nervousness under his eyes that I caught with precision. Of course. Of course. Now we just need to wait for the police. I've got a bit of an abdominal pain. Where's the restroom? Please? I turned sideways. It's directly in front of me. I was expecting Cohen to try to sneak up on me like I did. But I didn't expect him to go into the restroom without looking back. Snapping the door shut and unlocking it, I rushed into the bedroom and grabbed a sleeping pill. Cohen remained motionless in the bathroom until I put the sleeping pill in a glass of water and came out with it. I tiptoed up. Suddenly, there was the sound of water running in the bathroom. A shower? Had I really misjudged him? But soon, I could hear him talking on the phone precisely from the sound of running water. Hello. I am the owner of the 13th floor of the Jing'an neighborhood. Just now I called the police to say that there is a murderer. I'm sorry. It was my misunderstanding. The matter has been resolved. You do not have to come. I clenched my fists. Sure enough. He is not a good person. It took about 10 minutes before Cohen came out of the restroom. He frowned and bent over, covering his stomach. It was quite the act. I hurriedly handed the hot water with sleeping pills to him. Drink some hot water. Your stomach will feel better. He froze for a moment, but still drank all the cup of water without hesitation. A few seconds later, he covered his stomach and spoke again. I'll go to the restroom again. Sorry. I no longer wanted to care if he was faking or real. The sleeping pills had gone in anyway. As expected, by the time he came out again, his walk started to wobble. You, and then fell heavily to the ground afterward. I kicked a few times, and even put the knife at his neck and threatened. Stop pretending. I'll kill you if you don't get up. If you are pretending. When you hear these words, you will naturally react. Even with the best mental quality, the eyeballs would have rolled. But he didn't have any abnormalities, since the beginning. I let out a slight sigh of relief and dragged him to the second bedroom like a dead dog. Just to be on the safe side, I found a rope and tied him up. After doing this, I heavily paralyzed on the floor. Finally, I was safe for the time being. The next step was just to call the police again and quietly wait for them to come and rescue me. 110 words had not been pressed yet. There was another rustling sound from outside the door. I was suddenly sweating. Tightly gripping the cell phone, didn't dare to make a sound. What's going on? Could it be that Cohen's accomplices are back again? Or is the couple across the street really murderers? Countless thoughts appeared in my mind. I hurriedly pulled my legs back to the bedroom and unlocked the door. At this time, I found that my cell phone, which had a full signal just a moment ago, was showing no signal at the moment. Not only that, the computer inside the bedroom also showed no network. I instantly messed up. I was about to squat down to check the network cable. That life-threatening voice once again sounded clearly. Unlocked successfully. Welcome home. My body shivered violently. The intense feeling of fear kept my brain clearer than ever. No longer could I resist secretly cursing. Grass. Is my home some worthless place? Why can anyone come in? I wasn't really sure who the person who came in this time was. But all I could be sure of was that he wouldn't be fooled by me like Cohen was. There was nothing I could do about it except pray that he found me later. Following that, I heard an all too familiar voice. Soon, though, I knew the identity of the other party. Because the voice that I had been thinking about day and night suddenly appeared outside the door of the master bedroom. Now that was my online boyfriend. He was practically talking against the door. Baby, haven't you always wanted to see me? What are you hiding in there for? Are you shy? Maniacal laughter echoed through the living room. I covered my mouth in fear and looked out the window with a heart of gold. Jump off? At least it would give a pain. Baby. Falling to death is the most painful way to die. Oh, you come out obediently. I can give you a pain. How? I rounded my eyes incredulously. How could he know all my movements and thoughts clearly? It's impossible. Unless. I got up and frantically searched every corner. Nothing under the bed. Nothing on the table. Nothing on the cupboard. Nothing in the corner. Suddenly something occurred to me. Eyes fell on the doll on the bed. The movement stalled and a chill ran down my back. The doll's bow at the neck was currently flickering with a faint red light. I stiffened up and pulled off the bow in a fit of rage. Sure enough, inside was a miniature camera. TSK. The man's voice came. My baby is just smart. But unfortunately, you found out too late. The dust has settled and you can't change anything. His tone was no different than before when he was talking to me in love. At the moment it sounds creepy. Speaking of which, it's still you who is sweet and helped me with that stinky man. It dawned on me that this was the case. I'm afraid that's not the only surveillance you've planted on me. He laughed out loud. You're smart. But smart women don't tend to live long. No wonder he's been pressing on since Cohen came in. He should know that I don't trust Cohen with my whole heart. We'll definitely find a way to fix Cohen. If not him. As long as the two of us kill each other, it will be much simpler for him to come and wrap things up then. I just don't understand. What is his purpose in killing me? A hobby? Fun? Anger? Why? I didn't hold back but asked anyway. He sked twice. For the money. Of course. I couldn't hold back my laughter. Joke. Everyone who knows me knows that my pockets are cleaner than my face. Where would I get the money? If I said they were doing it for a hobby, I'd be scared. But if they said it was for money, then I was relieved. My parents died when I was young. My grandmother brought me up from childhood. From elementary school. I am the poor students in the class. I was a per student in my class from elementary school onwards. And I went to university on the money given by the state. Luckily, I had the will to go to college. Not only was I exempted from tuition, but I also received a 4-year scholarship. But even so, it did not change the status quo of poverty. In the company, I was the only one who brought food. Because I didn't get much love growing up. That's why I indulged in the goodness of my online boyfriend. You didn't? The other party pulled up the volume. The village demolition. Your grandmother's set of old house just happened to be in the demolition ranks. She gave all the money to you. Not a penny to their other 2 sons. You say you did not? I was given the money no less. But I didn't even dare to have a nice meal to celebrate so that no one would notice anything unusual. The day after it arrived, I deposited the deadlines. Took out only a very small portion to make a down payment on this house. Wanted to bring Grandma here to retire. But this is something I didn't even mention to Otia. So how did he know about it? Don't worry. I'll make sure you're an understanding ghost. The implication is that I will be made to know the reason before I die. Clicking. The door lock began to turn. I took a deep breath and raised my knife high. Ready for me to chop down if he dared to stretch his head. Apparently he predicted my movement. The door was pushed open a small crack and a stick came in unexpectedly and stabbed me in the stomach. I bent over in pain. In just a moment. 2. I was pinned to the ground. He had 1 foot on my hand and 1 on my face. I was forced to the floor. With a sideways glance, I got a good look at him. He had a centipede-like scar on his right cheek that ran from the corner of his mouth to the end of his eye. Baby. Happy face. The scar bounced across his face along with a laugh. Don't tell me. You're not bad looking. You're not going to be able to give up your hand. Are you? A female voice came from the living room, accompanied by gradually clear footsteps. A familiar face appeared in front of my eyes. It should be the woman from across the street. We've actually only met twice. And I wasn't sure looking at the looks. But her gentle watery voice. I remembered it well. Before I saw her with loose hair. Big waves. Face half blocked. This time, after tying up the ponytail, her features were nakedly exposed. It was her. I was in a cold sweat. I thought I understood why it was clear to them that I had a large deposit. I had met her at the bank 4 months ago. I went to make a deposit, and she was in front of me. She even gave me her number first because she forgot her ID. Then when I was halfway through my transaction, she rushed next to me and asked the bank clerk, "My ID has arrived. Can I do it now or do I have to get a new number?" She stood next to me for less than a minute combined. And during that time, she only glanced at my slip. The rest of the time I was dead center. That one glance was all it took for her to notice. Any idea why she was on to you? I was so distraught. I didn't answer. Because you are too deliberate. You look around from the time you enter the door. Just about to make me rich. You guys don't look at me written on my face. Originally my target is not you. But you are too conspicuous. There is no way I have to fulfill you. She dragged me up from the ground with a sneer on her face. Without even giving me a chance to resist. She tied me up. Transfer the money to me, and I can consider sparing your life. I laughed back in anger. Since you met me at the bank that day, you should know very well that I deposited that money for death. How can I give it to you? She slapped me across the face and there was a buzzing sound in my ears. Less fucking tricks for me. My man has been in love with you for 3 months. And has invested tens of thousands of dollars in you alone. Where the hell is the money is not clear to me. My heart tightened. Originally that money I was saved for the dead. But the family's uncles and grandparents harassed the grandmother all day long. They even threatened that if they didn't give them the money, they would take grandma and kill her in the city. It's not that I haven't thought of bringing grandma here secretly. But every time they found out. Once I go. They beat grandma once. So this money. I've withdrawn. We made an appointment to hand over the money in one hand and the person in the other this weekend. I think these two should have heard the conversation between my uncle and me through the surveillance. That's why they chose tonight to do it. Transfer the money. She aimed the tip of the knife at my eyes and spoke impatiently. I'll count to 5. First poke out your left eye. Then your right eye. I spoke hurriedly. The cell phone has no signal. This doesn't need you to worry about. You just need to say the password and I will naturally restore the signal. Sure enough. The no signal thing was operated by the two of them. Of course I can't give her the money. Without this money, Grandma will be tortured to death by Uncle Grandpa. If that's the case, why should I take advantage of these two scums? But if I die and leave the money behind, maybe they'll treat Grandma better for the sake of the money. What's more, I'm not the only one who knows this password. Grandma knew it too. I crossed my heart and simply closed my eyes. You kill me. I won't give you the money. Grass. The man pushed the woman away and kicked me in the small of my back. Cold sweat broke out on my forehead from the pain. Immediately after that he started to tear my collar. Don't give money. Right. Then I will rape and then kill. And then rape and then kill. Can't get the money. And after having a good time, I will use your video to exchange for money. At this moment, my heartbeat is like a drum. The whole body cannot stop trembling. It would be a lie to say that I wasn't scared. But when I thought of my grandmother, all my fears vanished. I said stiffly without batting an eye. Whatever. The man completely lost his patience. In 3 or 2 strokes, he stripped off my blouse. A gust of wind blew over me, and I got goosensed. Will biting my tongue kill me? It seems like you can. Bite off your tongue and swallow it stuck in your windpipe. People will suffocate alive. But that seems like a very painful way to die. It doesn't matter. It's better than being insulted. I closed my eyes tightly and bit my tongue. I was about to exert myself. There was a sudden muffled grunt in my ear. Opening my eyes, Cohen stood in front of me covered in blood. His hair was disheveled, and his bare chest was covered in signs of bondage. I was like someone who had been drowning for a long time grabbing for a lifeline. Tears soared out in an instant. He copied the dagger in his hand like a walking corpse and plunged it into the man's body one after another. Blood splattered on his face and he subconsciously closed his eyes. I hurriedly shouted, Cohen, don't. It's against the law to kill. His raised hand stopped in my drawer, and he looked at the scene in front of him incredulously as if he had returned to his senses. What have I done? I whimpered and opened my mouth. I'm sorry. It's all my fault. He was breathing heavily. His eyes out of focus. I killed someone. Didn't I? What to do? Am I going to be shot? Am I going to get the death penalty? I shifted around and made a soothing noise. You did it to save me. You did it in self-defense. I can testify for you. You don't count as a murderer. He lay on the ground and rubbed his hair in pain. After a long time, he slowly got up and walked towards me, and gently untied the ropes on my body. He also didn't forget to rub my reddened cheeks. Are you all right? Does it hurt? Looking up, I met his red bloodshot eyes, and guilt washed over me. I even neglected the fact that the top half of my body was only in my underwear and threw myself into his arms. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have distrusted you. It's all my fault. He patted my back. It's okay. As long as you're not hurt. Since I couldn't destroy the scene, I just wiped the blood on Cohen's face. After changing clothes and getting organized, an inexplicable silence suddenly fell in the room. He coughed twice and opened his mouth. You wait. I'll go out and see why exactly there's no internet. I froze for a moment. Okay, you pay attention to safety. I'm worried about. Don't worry. That woman was knocked out by me. This man can't get up. 10 minutes later, Cohen walked in with his head hanging down. I didn't find out why. I even went downstairs to ask. And they said there was no signal. Downstairs? At 12th floor? Cohen's expression stalled slightly, and he unconsciously clenched his fists. What's going on? I joked. It seems you didn't say you were from 1301. If you want to say you know me, she'll have to beat you out with a stick. We've had a bad time before." He had a look on his face like that. "In that case, let's go downstairs and drive to the police station." He pondered for a few seconds. "Why don't you go? I'll guard these two at home. What if they wake up and run away? Go by yourself? It's already past midnight. And I'm scared to think about driving alone on the road in the suburbs. In case I'm unlucky enough to run into a drunk." I involuntarily shivered. Tonight had been exciting enough. I just couldn't afford any more surprises. I frowned and grumbled. "Am I alone? It's okay if I go. I can't just let these two murderers off the hook. It's better for me to go. I would rather choose to go to the police station than share a room with two vicious murderers." Before I left, I took a knife with me just in case. Cohen teased me for being too sensitive. I smiled and didn't answer. Cohen teased me about being too sensitive, but I smiled and didn't answer. The underground garage is pitch black. The safety exit sign emits a greenish light, which looks like a scene from a horror movie. I stomped my feet. My voice echoed in the empty underground garage. But the lights didn't come on. I hurriedly turned on the flashlight on my cell phone and cautiously moved forward. Cohen said his car was parked in spot B. I held up my cell phone and looked for B. Suddenly, there was a rustling behind me. My scalp went numb and I froze in place. The sound disappeared again. But as soon as I walked away, the sound immediately reappeared. Someone was following me. I hurriedly turned off my cell phone and jogged a few steps. And sure enough, the footsteps behind me began to pick up speed as well. Ahead of me was a large SUV. And I crouched down without saying a word. The man stood still as well. In the green light, I could vaguely see him looking from side to side. Then straight to the right. That way was Section A. I breathed a sigh of relief that it was probably a resident of the building. At the same time I was chagrined. I should have just asked him if he had a signal at home. I wandered around down there for a while, but couldn't find Area B. After a long period of tension, and not much air circulation inside, I was a little short of breath. So I turned around and went up. I didn't expect to walk out in circles to reach the building at the very outside of the neighborhood. I simply ran outside. And as expected, ran not long ago. Found that the cell phone restored the signal. I was so excited that I cried tears of joy. Even surrounded by cornfields are not afraid. Hastily dialed the police again. The other party told me that the traffic accident had been dealt with, and would soon be able to come over. Within minutes of hanging up, the phone rang again. It was Cohen, and his tone was tentative. "Tanya, where have you been? Why do I see the car still in the underground parking lot?" I looked around and there was no one there. It didn't seem to be following me. "Did you come down?" "No," he retorted hastily. "My phone app can see the status of the car. You didn't get in. Where are you? Are you still safe?" "Ah," I feigned surprise. "You got a signal there? Did you call the police then? Are those two awake yet?" His remorseful voice came. "Why, never mind. I was so busy worrying about you I forgot to call the police." "No, I've already called the police. They'll be here in half an hour. I'm at this cornfield location north of the gate. I'll be right back." After saying that, I hung up the phone without waiting for him to say anything. The summer wind is cool. I simply sit on the ground. I looked at the sky full of stars. Leisurely one by one counted up. 12. 3,940. The sound of walking came from the cornfield behind me. I hooked my lips and smiled. Finally. The next second, someone rushed out of the cornfield and pinned me to the ground. The tip of the knife was pressed against my neck, threatening to open my mouth. "Tell me the withdrawal code. Otherwise, I will go to your house tomorrow and kill your grandmother." Under the cold moonlight. Cohen's nice beach blossom eyes are cruel. "I didn't expect. You are still a rich woman. This is an unexpected pleasure." I laughed coldly. "The infamous serial killer. I didn't expect it to be you." He was a bit surprised and continued to aggravate the movement of his hands. Don't talk nonsense. I don't eat this set. Are you not curious? At least you can circumvent the next time not to be found by the police. He came to be interested. Only give you 2 minutes. It's the rope knot. I have purposely watched the video of others explaining your murder before. At that time I purposely learned that rope knot. The purpose is that in case I am accidentally caught one day, I can and eye it with my own ability. I practiced for a long time and couldn't do it. But you untied it in one go. Also, you came out and said that there was no signal. This is clearly when you just fainted. I talked to that couple. Which means that you didn't faint at all. Drinking that glass of water. You went to induce vomiting. Right. He nudged his mouth, signaling me to continue. Although I don't know. Why on earth would you set your eyes on the woman across the street? But killing me was not in your plan. It's just that you heard that I have a lot of money. Not to take it for nothing. So you simply snatched the money. And finally framed the crime of the previous serial killings on the body of that couple. He puffed and laughed. The laughter was a bit abrupt in the silent midnight. A small animal passed by in the cornfield, making a faint trattling sound. I admit, most of what you say is right. I did not even stare at that woman. I'm not interested in this kind of bitch. She has been provoking me. Want my money. I had to fulfill him. I realized that the cell phone number of the woman with whom I had an online relationship was on the woman's body. It's a coincidence that tonight she call forwarded to a man's cell phone. That's why a series of things have followed. I want to cry. A night to provoke 3 perverts. I'm lucky to be alive. Cohen lost his patience. The story is finished. Hurry up and say the password. Or else I will pick off your hamstring and hamstring to raise in my basement. And then get your grandmother to come here. And slaughtered in front of your face. I shuddered slightly, glancing at the cornfield behind him. Critters seemed to be crawling out. Would you say your knife is faster? Or a cop's gun? He didn't expect me to ask that and froze for a few seconds. Ishihara. In the next instant, he fell to the ground covering his ankle. He reacted quickly, rushing to grab the knife on the ground. I got up and stomped down hard between his legs. Supposedly, the next day the few occupants of our neighborhood thought they had killed a pig in the middle of the night. As I watched Cohen being escorted to the police car, I sat down on the floor with a weak leg. My face was pale and I couldn't stop sweating. The calmness and valor I had just shown were all feigned. To be precise. From the moment I realized Cohen's abnormality, everything was faked. Including the fact that I knew that he said he went out to look for signals to test me. Because I saw him take the key to the door inside my second bedroom. Electronic locks. Even if you change the code, a key still opens it. When I was at the office earlier, I heard him say that he bought a new car and that he could check the status of the car in real time through the app. Whether it starts or not. Whether someone gets into the car or not. Besides, I live downstairs in District D. Area B is at least a 10-minute walk to my place. There aren't many cars in the underground garage to begin with. So he can't afford to park that far away. These are all my guesses. Until Cohen was interrogated one by one to confirm the moment. I still cannot help but after the fear. He said that if you had chosen to stay, he would have turned back and killed you. I wasn't stupid. I opened my mouth loudly. I even knew he had the key. I definitely wouldn't go back. Of course. It was all thanks to the operator in the first place. She was the one who sensed the anomaly of Cohen canceling the alarm call. That's why she had the caller fast-tracked here after learning that the roads were normal. When I called the police the second time, the person on the other end said they'd be here in 2 minutes. I let them hide in the cornfield on purpose. I wanted Cohen to tell the truth. Weren't you scared then? I was scared to death. I was more afraid that in case I couldn't implement the evidence that he was a psychopathic murderer, you guys arrived first and he gave up killing me. And in the days ahead he wouldn't know how to find a way to get me killed so that there would be no more trouble forever. Officer Sun said to give me an award was I refused. As a reward, He accompanied me back to the village. I successfully got my grandmother back from my bully uncle. As for Cohen, he was sentenced to death. Officer Sun also rescued two girls in his basement. This incident spread in our company and everyone was saying that they didn't expect the serious guy to be such a pervert. After this incident, Otia decisively quit the rent and moved to my house. For one thing, one more person is more security. Most importantly, she's been thinking about my grandma's handiwork for too long. On the day she moved in, Grandma made her a n-course meal. The three of us looked at each other and smiled, suddenly not knowing what to say. It was Grandma who was the first to break the silence. Tomorrow is another good day. Not only tomorrow. It's going to be a good day from now on.